Well, the AO and the NAO is going into firm positive territory, and that is all courtesy, of, I believe anyway, of the Manjulian Oscillation rotating through the maritime continent and now pushing into the western portion of the Pacific. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. We are going to see high pressure start to establish itself over the UK and Ireland through the middle and second half of this week, and it's all about forcing within the tropics. You can see here that the AO firmly positive now, and we are seeing the same with the NAO. And quite a few sources weren't seeing this return to positive AO and NAO as we're moving into the middle portion of December. But it was highlighted away back in the 24th, 25th of November that with the MJO rotating through the warmer phases, we should see the return of the Atlantic and a milder setup. And that is the case, of course. Now, we do have a very strong high pressure over Western Russia. We are now seeing the pressure rise to 1060 millibars. And, like I said in yesterday's video, for reference, the strongest ever high pressure system in the UK was 1053 millibars, set way back in the early 1900s over Aberdeen. But you can see as we play through the loop, we did have not one but two named systems by Met Arian that brought some significant amounts of rainfall. Flooding was a problem, winds in excess of 70 miles per hour in some spots as well. You can see an area of low pressure moving across Ireland and the UK through the course of the weekend, and it has been miserable to say the least. Now we've got a bump in the isobars, we've got a gap between systems. One now, that system once named Fergus, pushing into the northern portions of Germany, the Denmark, southern parts of Scandinavia. We're seeing the impacts now. But look at the high pressure over far western Russia. That high is expected to go to 1064 millibars by the time we reach early tomorrow morning here. And the temperatures have cooled off as well. This is the current temperatures at 10 past 4 in the evening, and you can see some fairly cold air continuing to reside over western Russia beneath that powerful area of high pressure. We've got mild conditions, 12, 13 Celsius across the far south of the UK. Now colder air is now starting to kind of get wrapped in on the backside of that area of low pressure. And we have got a fair old contrast in temperature between the north and south here. So let's have a look and see what we're seeing regarding the current temperature over the UK. So this is in fact the temperatures for around about this time yesterday, and we had 5 to 7 Celsius across the north. If we look further south, you can see that the temperatures were around the 12, even 13 Celsius range. But as we play through the animation, also for Ireland, you can see 11, 12 Celsius across the south versus 7 to 9 across more northern areas. Now, as we play through this loop, you can see that the temperatures have been coming down across the north of the UK. Dropped off to -2 at Altnahara this morning, and the current temperature is around 1 Celsius. Further south, again, milder conditions here versus points further north. Now, as we look at the all-important run-up to Christmas, we are now in a time frame that we can look at this. Again, you have to take it slightly with a pinch of salt because we are still quite a long way off. We're only on the 11th of December, of course, and we still have quite a long ways to go with regards to the Christmas, or the holiday period, and also in the run-up to the new year. So you can see another area of low pressure moving through during the course of tomorrow. Not a particularly deep low, but nonetheless it's going to bring more wet and windy conditions across many areas of the UK. Then higher pressure should start to become a little bit more established. That area of high pressure then moves eastwards over Russia, and then we'll start to see the overall height field building from a southwesterly direction. This is still a mild setup, but nonetheless, with the area of high pressure building a little bit more over the British Isles, we could start to see frost and foggy conditions developing here as we go through the course of late week and this upcoming weekend and then beyond that. And notice here as we move towards next week, that area of high pressure is starting to shift more towards the west over the Atlantic. Now, it is going to have a polar maritime component to it, northwesterly winds, but they're still coming over largely ocean, so it's not going to be particularly cold, but it will be colder, and we do introduce something a little bit colder to the point where we may see wintry precipitation return to the northern portions of the UK and hilly areas. So you can see area of low pressure at 954 millibars over far northern Scandinavia. We've got a 1054, 1053 millibar high to the west of the UK, and that is a cold setup here. That is generally a northerly flow that you would get with this synoptic situation here. And this is the days running up to Christmas, so this is late next week, 21st of December. We've got northerly winds, we've got shower activity, we may have winteriness associated with this as well here. Then we've also got more systems coming in. This is Saturday the 23rd. We've got plenty of winteriness. If we look at the 850 temperature profile at this stage here, you can see there that there is colder in place, still mild across the south, colder across the north, and it's going to be all eyes on this time frame here in the last gasp attempt at seeing possibly the first wintry Christmas in a wee while here. But you notice as we move into Christmas Day, this is of course based on the latest run of the GFS. Like I've already said, this is going to chop and change. We're going to see milder runs. We're going to see warmer runs. We're also going to see colder runs as well. But it's very interesting that as we move from Christmas into the Boxing Day period, we've got this next push of cold air coming in. And quite often we get that. We can have mild Christmas days, but then a change to snow for Boxing Day. How many times have we seen a mild Christmas day, then a turn to colder for Boxing Day or even for the 27th? That can often be the case here. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens as we move forward. Quite a dynamic situation. That area of high pressure shifting westwards over the Atlantic as we move into the time frame of next week, and then we'll wait and see what happens. But this is an interesting tweet here by Nahel showing the situation over the UK. We've got this plume of moisture coming out of the subtropics and moving up into the western portions of Europe here. We've had a very wet situation here in recent days. We'll continue to see that wet situation, but we are going to dry things out, thankfully, thanks to high pressure building over the UK and Ireland here. But the MJO is going to be interesting to watch as we go into the time frame of the 20th through the 25th of December. Now, this is us right now, so we've moved through 4 and 5. That is why we're seeing the NAO and the AO both positive. But then as we move towards the time frame of like I say, the 18th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, that MJO is expected to go back into the null phase, but in a phase 6 and 7, which is increased blocking, especially across the Atlantic up towards Greenland as well. So it'll be interesting to see if the NAO goes back towards neutral or even negative in that 25th through the 31st of December time frame. So we'll have to watch this space quite carefully because it's going to be quite an interesting pattern moving forward. So to kind of slightly back up what I'm saying here with that trend to possible colder at the end of the month, this is the CFSV2. Now, by the way, this is a slightly outdated version because the CFSV2 is currently reloading new data, so we don't have that available at the moment. You can see here the upcoming 7-day period. We've got that trough over northern and eastern portions of Europe. We've got the double high pressure structure, one over Northwest Africa, the Western Mediterranean, and also one over the North Atlantic. As we move into the week 2 period, this is the 8th through the 14th, you can see here that area of high pressure is fairly close to the UK, actually over the UK and Ireland here to an extent. And then as we go between the 24th and 31st, you notice the high then slips off to the west, trough over the UK and eastwards here. That is a north to northwesterly airflow. and a possibility of something colder. So this indeed is the period between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and that is quite an interesting look by the CFSV2. If we look at the temperature anomaly chart here, you can see it's actually slightly above average, which is quite interesting. But you can see the upcoming 7-day period is firmly warmer than average. Week 2, you can see here, still warmer than average. And then week 3, you would expect that to turn a little bit colder given the upper air setup. So, yeah, it's all to play for in the coming days and even the next couple of weeks here. So stay tuned. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.